Hey guys, what's up? I'm back again. This is two for two, two videos in one day. My first Raw review in Jesus Christ years. I do reviews on different like shows and whatnot, but I mean like Raw, like a weekly show of me doing a review on Raw is like I said, I would have been years. Um, so a couple quick points I wanted to make on for Raw tonight. Since I made my video earlier about the Elimination Chamber, we saw, or the conclusion, I should say, of Elimination Chamber. We got the follow up to it tonight on Raw. Um, all in all, Raw was an okay show, I would say. However, there were some key things I noticed about this episode of Raw in particular. Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley was featured in the opening segment, which we all would figure. He was featured in the middle segment of Raw, and Bobby Lashley was featured in the main event of Raw. Um, like I said in my video before this one, if they're not planning to put the belt on Bobby Lashley, I don't know. I don't know what the hell are they putting him in this position for if they don't put the strap on him. Because tonight's Monday Night Raw, for as much as Miz is coming off of the pay per view last night as the new champion, Monday Night Raw to me was all about Bobby Lashley. Like Miz was just kind of like, again, a plot point to and that justifies its means. The real story tonight was Bobby Lashley. Or I said the main focus of Raw tonight was Bobby Lashley. It opened up with, as I had said in my previous video, and as many others had also had alluded from last night, that MVP made a deal with Miz that if Miz cashed in, well, Lashley would help him, would beat up McIntyre, which would give Miz the opportunity to cash in, and with a successful cash in, Lashley would be first in line for a title shot. Miz, being a heel that he is, tries to talk his way out of this, saying like, "Hey, I need more time, whatever the case may be." Blah blah blah. Lashley gives him an ultimatum, says, "Hey, look, I'm giving you 1 hour. If you don't give me a result in 1 hour, as in terms of you defending this title against me, you keeping up your part of the bargain, your end of the bargain, there's going to be some problems, pretty much." Fast forward towards the middle of the show. Miz tries to plead his case again, saying like, "Hey, I need more time. Let's wait a week, one more week." Braun Strowman comes out. Braun Strowman says like, "Hey, he's demanding a title shot." Followed up by Shane McMahon coming out. I think we're gonna have a Braun Strowman Shane McMahon match at WrestleMania. I think that's something that's building towards WrestleMania. Because between tonight and then another segment between those two, it looks like that's where the seeds are being planted. Anyway, so yeah, so Braun Strowman or Shane McMahon says, "Hey, look, you can't demand a title shot, but here for the main event, you'll take on Bobby Lashley. If you beat Bobby Lashley, then the title match between Lashley and Miz will end up being a triple threat involving Braun Strowman." Okay, cool, whatever. Then we get on to the main event. I have to say, I thought they had a pretty good match. The match was like maybe 6 or 7 minutes, but I had a good time watching it. I know Braun Strowman. I like Braun Strowman. I know Braun Strowman has lost a lot of steam and a lot of momentum. Like, you compare Braun Strowman in, like, say, 2017, 2018 to, 2020, 2021 Braun Strowman, it is like night and day how much momentum that guy has lost. But I like Braun Strowman. I think Braun Strowman, he works well for a big guy. He's a big powerhouse wrestler, dude. I like Braun Strowman. I just think they WWE just really fumbled the ball on that guy like so many times and just completely killed any momentum he's had. And dude's a former Universal Champion, even though he wasn't planned to be. They still kind of even managed to botch that up too. But despite the fact, I thought it was a good match. And just kind of seeing these guys go at it, just these two big behemoths just going at it, it kind of made me say to myself, I'm like, damn, like, this really isn't the norm anymore in wrestling. I looked at that main event tonight at Raw. I'm just like, I know the landscaping of wrestling has really changed, but when you look at it from like AEW, NXT, SmackDown, Raw, most of the guys are like 5'8", 175, 215 pounds maybe. You don't really get a lot of there aren't a lot of heavyweights, and the heavyweights that we do have in wrestling today, they themselves don't butt heads a lot. It's always the heavyweight against like a light heavyweight or a welterweight kind of guy in wrestling. So, seeing two big heavyweights going at it, it's kind of a rare treat in wrestling to come across nowadays. Which I think is kind of sad because, at this point, they're kind of like a dying breed. But I enjoyed the main event for what it was. I thought it was a fun, six match of two guys just, going at it. Car wreck, car crash, whatever. Bobby Lashley defeats Braun Strowman. And after he beats Braun Strowman, he still... he puts him in the hurt lock or the master lock, whatever you want to call it, full Nelson, and still does damage to Braun Strowman. So, after he beats Braun Strowman, he still beats him up some more. And then you get The Miz, who comes in the ring and tries to, be the heel that he is, tries to one-up Lashley. Lashley just tosses him like a 5-year-old child, lifts him up, tosses him, spears him, and then Lashley poses as the credits roll, holding the championship up in the air. I have to say this. From the way they booked Lashley tonight on Raw to that closing ending segment after he squashed The Miz and he took the belt and he was hoisting it up in the air, alluding to what could be next week, I say, WWE, pull the fucking trigger. If there was any time to put the belt on Lashley, now is the time. Next week is that time. I'm hoping they pull the trigger. Do I think they will do it? Probably not. Because I think something's going to happen. It's going to be a screwy finish. I think the belt might end up being on Lashley at some point between now and maybe say Fastlane. I'm just not so sure Lashley's going to get the belt next week on Raw. Because if you know WWE and you know how WWE books things, anytime someone looks a little bit too dominant and, they're posing with the belt and stuff like that, they end up kind of losing for the most part. So I don't know. Then you have to think about Drew McIntyre. Maybe Drew McIntyre is going to come in, interfere, because Lashley, for all intents and purposes, you really can't really blame The Miz. The Miz has done something that other people before him has done, and that's cashing money in the bank. Finding that opportunity, cashing in the briefcase. That's something that many people have done. So, despite Miz being the heel and picking his spot, he's really not too much to blame or too much at fault for doing what he did. Lashley is the one who pretty much made that spot or gave that opportunity available for Miz to come in and cash in the briefcase. So I'd assume McIntyre will come in sometime maybe next week during that title match and fuck it up and it end up being no disqualification. Which I'll just talk about that for a second really quick. I saw a lot of people online tonight saying, where's Drew McIntyre? Why isn't Drew McIntyre on Raw? I guess WWE are done with the Drew McIntyre experiment because he's not on Raw tonight. He should be on Raw. Why is he on Raw tonight? For once, I commend WWE for not putting Drew McIntyre on Raw. And the reason why is because WWE has a very bad habit of when a wrestler goes through the drizzling shits and they get, they get incapacitated. They get the hell beat out of them. They get some sort of concussion, whatever angle that, in a realistic world, you would think, hey, it'll take you off TV for a while. They just end up coming right back on Raw. I mean, how many times have we seen John Cena, like, get his dome splattered with a DDT on concrete from the Nexus, and he gets the hell beat out of him from the Nexus, and he comes back the next night on Raw, wrestling Rey Mysterio or whomever, okie dokie, like 100% fine, like nothing happened the night before. Drew McIntyre just went through a grueling Elimination Chamber match where he fought 5 other competitors who are former world champions in their own right. So these are 5 top talented guys he just went through in a chamber match, barely making it, but he made it, to end up being murdered by Bobby Lashley, getting destroyed by Lashley. And on top of that, he ends up getting whatever's left of him, ends up getting scraped away from The Miz, who cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase, and he loses his title because of it. With everything that Drew McIntyre went through at Elimination Chamber last night, he better not be on Raw the next night. So I don't know what the fuck everyone online is like talking about, saying, where's Drew? He should be on Raw tonight. Drew better not be on Raw tonight. He just went through a grueling chamber match, got annihilated by Bobby Lashley, and then got kicked even lower down the petting stool by having The Miz cash in his briefcase. Bro's hurt. Bro is not only physically hurt, he's probably spiritually and mentally hurt because he lost his title on top of, like, surviving a grueling match and getting, like, mauled by an angry black man. He better not be on Raw. What are people talking about? That's what I don't understand. So I commend WWE for keeping Drew off of Raw at least for 1 week. He shouldn't be on Raw tonight. But I'm saying all this to say he could appear next week. Could Lashley actually be WWE champion next week? And I know people say, well, Miz just got the belt. He shouldn't drop it right away. I kind of get that. I kind of understand why some people might be a little bit apprehensive at that. But it's not out of the realms of possibility. I mean, let's look at the facts here. We've had The Miz. Not The Miz. You go back in time. Kane. Kane won the WWF Championship at a pay-per-view. Lost it the next night, right back to Stone Cold Steve Austin on Monday Night Raw. We've had, I'm trying to think, the United States Championship, I think back in 2016, 2017, when Jericho and Owens had that feud or whatever. Chris Jericho, I think, either won the United States title after dropping it to Kevin Owens or something like that, like at the previous pay-per-view. At the last draft we had about almost a year ago, Jeff Hardy won the United States Championship on SmackDown, like 2 weeks after I think Randy Orton had it or something like that. Maybe not last year, maybe it was the year before. But the point that I make, it was the year before because we had an audience then. But the point I'm making is, it's not out of the realms of possibility for someone to win a championship and then they lose it a day later, a week later. I'm just not sure if it'll happen during WrestleMania season. Hell, Drew McIntyre just recently had the WWE title, lost it to Randy Orton, and 3 weeks later won it right back. So Miz could lose it. I know he just won it last night, but he can lose it next week. That's not out of the realms of possibility. I just don't think it'll happen. I'm thinking McIntyre might come in, interfere, screw over Lashley. I think they're going to build something. Whatever happens next week on Raw is going to be a ramification and building towards the Fastlane pay-per-view. Maybe Lashley gets it then. Whatever the case may be, if they pull the trigger next week on Lashley, I say fucking do it. I say do it. If not, maybe Lashley gets it at Fastlane. But like I said tonight, the way they booked Lashley on Raw tonight, like, he was a key focal point of the show. He was in 3 segments. He opened the show, he was in the middle of the show, and he was in the main event. You're not putting the guy in a spot on Raw like that just for him not to prevail, or for him to for you to push him over the edge and give him that final push. So he's either winning it next week on Raw, or he's gonna win it at Fastlane. Either way, Lashley at this point now, coming out of Raw, Lashley's gonna get some gold going into WrestleMania, hands down. Whether he's defending or whether he's chasing, Lashley's going to be WWE champion before we get to WrestleMania. And I say, let's go for it. Let's do it. And like I said again, pull the fucking trigger next week. Just go for it. And side note, I got to give credit to Miz. Miz's facial expressions are hilarious, because Miz, when Shane McMahon had announced and said, like, hey, Braun Strowman, if you beat Lashley in the main event, it'll be a triple threat for the WWE title next week. The look on Miz's face just dropped, like, bro, I don't want to fight Lashley, but now you're telling me I have the possibility of not only fighting Lashley, but also Braun? What the fuck? And then you get to the main event, and Lashley beats Braun. They pan the camera to Miz, and Miz's facial expression was like, damn. I don't have to fight both monsters, but I still gotta fucking deal with Lashley. I'm fucked. Hilarious to me. Absolutely hilarious. But either way, yeah. I'm looking at things from the bigger picture here. I mean, I think if beating The Miz for the championship doesn't really mean much of anything, but I think you'll get more crowd support behind Lashley, even though Lashley is a heel. You'll get more support of Lashley beating Miz for the title, because I think if you had a choice between 2 heels, who would the audience want to be champion, Miz or Lashley? Of the 2, 9 times out of 10, Lashley, because the way he's been booked, and like I said, he's never been WWE champion before, so there's that. Whereas Miz has been there and done that. People aren't really high on him as being world champion, so having Lashley beat Miz for the title, and Miz being a transitional champion, I think makes better sense, or at least gets more momentum and more eggs in Lashley's basket for his benefit, rather than, say, if you were to have Lashley beat McIntyre, who's already got, fans support behind him. So yeah, this is all I have to say. You guys let me know what you think in the box below. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. I will put up, make sure that my comment section is not turned off, because I realized that was a mistake I made in my last video. Comments were turned off. I didn't mean to do that. So yeah, I didn't mean to make this long, but you guys let me know what you think. Peace out.